House Tyrell is steeped in chivalric traditions, and King Renly's alliance to them by way of Lady Marjorie has earned the loyalty of the famed Riders of Highgarden. While not as heavily armored as most cavalry, the riders can mount a charge as devastating as anything other factions can muster. A commander should guard against allowing them to be bogged down in a protracted melee, but even then, their loyalty and bravery shine through. The Riders of Highgarden are a recent cavalry release for House Baratheon, and they have the Renly loyalty. For 6 points, we end up getting a speed 6 unit that has the lance attack that hits on 4s and has that 6/4 decay stat. The defense save for the unit is 5+, and the morale is 6+. They have that standard cavalry rule where each model has 3 wounds, and then the unit can perform a maneuver at the start of its activation and then not sacrifice anything else that they just get that for free. Standard cavalry stuff. Their lance is also pretty standard as well. It's just got sundering, and then when they're charging, they roll +2 attack dice for each remaining rank in this unit. So there aren't a whole lot of bells and whistles on this unit. They're very straightforward in what they do, and that's they're a cheap cavalry unit that has the lance rule. And the lance rule right now had gotten a massive glow up, and I know I've been maybe disconnected from talking about the game for a while, but I do recall the lance change happening quite some time ago. But for this unit, if the lance rule were the old one, this probably wouldn't be something really worth talking about. But for 6 points, being able to throw 10 dice on the charge when you're at full ranks is really good. And you're not too worried about hitting on 4s, because if you are charging with them, the conversion on that with the rerolls isn't so bad. If you're doing something like, you're holding a weakened token, then that's probably not the greatest place in the universe to be for this unit. But I think that the unit itself has a very unique role within a Renly list, and I think it's going to be really welcome. I kind of think of the Riders of Highgarden not so much as like that Alpha Strike type unit. I feel like I want to use these much like how the flavor text, how it alludes to them kind of not wanting to be stuck in combat. That's what your other units are for in a Baratheon army. You've got a lot of resilient, tanky units, and for 6 points, you end up getting this massive scalpel to complement your anvil, so to speak. So you would use your really heavy units to get dug in first, and then the Riders of Highgarden can be really maneuverable and get to the engagement that they need to get to, and then try and plow through whatever the tanky unit couldn't get through. I think these are going to be awesome in most Renly lists, or Renly loyalty lists. I mean, I can't see myself really building many lists without at least one unit of these. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the synergies that exist in the faction, because with attachments or commanders, it's a little bit on the limited side with them being cavalry, and the Baratheons not having access to a cavalry commander. So there's only one attachment that I really want to talk about with this unit. It's one of the 2 that it can take, but that's going to be the Glory Seeker. For 1 point, it ends up bringing the ability Rally Cry that states each time this unit's performing a melee attack, before rolling the dice, target one other friendly unit within long range, and they restore 2 wounds. Now, going back to what I had said previously about this unit kind of being like a cleanup unit for something that your tanky units are engaged with, the Glory Seeker fits really well in here, and with them being so low in points, the 6-point unit, having a 1-point attachment to bring them up to 7 isn't really all that bad when the Glory Seeker's Rally Cry ability really plays into what they're trying to do. If you're getting stuck in with a tanky unit, we'll say something like, the Sentinels or whatever. Or Sentinels aren't tanky, but Wardens, sorry. So you're getting stuck in with Wardens, they charge in, do some attacks, or they've been fighting an engagement and get some wounds through. Now you can go ahead and activate your Highgarden Cavalry, charge on the side, because you're likely, if you're playing the positioning game right, you could easily get on the side of a unit. With all the dice they're throwing and the rerolls, you're likely to do a ton of damage to the unit, but then whatever kind of work your opponent's done to the wardens that they're engaged with, the Glory Seeker can go ahead and heal them back up. So I think this is a really good complement to what the Riders of Highgarden are trying to do within the list. I do want to specifically call out a couple cards in the Baratheon Tactics deck, the base Tactics deck, that I think fit well with this unit, something to pay attention to. One of the things that I don't really like about the unit is, of course, that 5+ defense save, but they can't have everything, right? So what happens with a 5+ defense save is that you're likely to get to that panic, your opponent's likely to get to that panic check, which they're sitting at 6, which is pretty decent in general, like it's above average, but with plenty of people trying to play into the panic game as a way to get more wounds across or try and bring that lethality level back up. It's really the 6+ morale stat really is not all that great. It's kind of dangerous because even at -2 you're looking at a morale of 8, and that's really not good, like not great for a 5+ unit. So Oath of Duty, it seems like this is a card that you would want to get stapled onto this unit for when things start going down. Essentially, you just get to attach the card to a combat unit, and then when a friendly infantry or cavalry unit is destroyed, you get the order token. And then while they have the order token, they suffer -1 wound from panic tests. And if you control the crown, every time they perform a melee attack, the defender gains 1 condition token. So it's got some offensive capability and defensive capabilities kind of programmed into it. -1 wound from a panic test could be the difference between losing a rank or not. And then when you're charging other units, having the ability to apply vulnerable on the charge, like essentially just getting furious charge all the time, is pretty decent. And if you're going into a low morale unit where you're not too worried about the defense saves on the side, you could always go for the panic token just to try and force, because you will more likely than not get wounds through on a unit on the side, and getting that panic check at -1 is decent as well. So I think Oath of Duty is something to pay attention to and maybe slap on the cav when you get a chance. The other one is the Baratheon's namesake. Ours is the Fury. This one triggers when a friendly unit's performing a melee attack before rolling the attack dice. You can choose one of the modes and then another one for each zone you control between the crown and the missive. One mode is that this attack gains +1 to hit. The other one is that it gains Sundering, and the final one is that it gains Vicious. So we don't need double Sundering in here. It's a superfluous thing. It's redundant. We don't need it because dual things don't stack, right? But that means that we don't have to try and fish for both of these tactic zones to get the maximum effect out of it, because if we just get one of those 2 zones, we'll be able to get +1 to hit, taking us to a 3+, which helps fix some of that 4+ issue. Even on the charge, it just means you're getting a ton of attacks through. And then Vicious also helps because if you are getting in on sides, which typically my expectation for how I would be playing this unit is that I would mostly be getting charges on the side, like in the perfect world, right? Like I have to be a good player and position properly for it. But Vicious, Sundering, +1 to hit, that's a formula for devastating a unit that's already been engaged and taken a few wounds. So it really does let the Riders of Highgarden do what I'm trying to program them for in the game. So I think a good buddy cop pair for this one is going to be bringing a unit of Champions of the Stag along with them. If we combine the point totals, it's 14 points for the package, which is expensive, right? But not when we consider what these 2 units can do with each other. You want to be able, I know a lot of people are going to want to be able to utilize that speed 6 cavalry with the Riders of Highgarden to get stuck in early, but again, like we know that we don't want that to be the first unit to connect, so you can kind of match their pace with something like the Champions of the Stag. If you feel like Flayed Men are more your speed and you want to save yourself, well, you don't save yourself any points anymore, but at any rate, I prefer the Champions of the Stag because I think Renly's side of things doesn't really play into panic, so the Flayed Men feel a little bit out of place for me, and this way I get a tanky unit that's just meant to connect. So they're speed 4, which isn't great, but they're cavalry, so they can at least get that free move. With a 2+ defense save and a 5+ morale, they're likely to bog your opponent down for a good long time, whether they're doing panic shenanigans or not. And then they have critical blow when they charge, so if you're connecting first with them, you're likely to get a ton of hits. They also become weakened, so it's going to be harder for your opponent to fight back if you get both Riders of Highgarden and the Champions of the Stag engaged with them. They'll have to they'll be kind of in a bad spot either way. If they're going after the Riders of Highgarden, they're having the weakened token, so it gives them some extra survivability. And then if that engagement ends up getting prolonged, with the Champion's Wrath ability, you also can vulnerable them with the champions before attacking. So I think there's just this in my mind's eye, I see the champions and the riders kind of like running around, engaging a unit, and having the riders of Highgarden come in and take them out, especially with some support from the tactics deck or your commander. I feel like there's some fun play with that, and they kind of turn into like this 1-2 punch domino effect where you're just kind of tag teaming your opponent's units and crumbling sides down. It's a really easy way to kind of open up flanks and force the way the table's being played. Like you just get to dismantle a whole side. I think that it's a neat combo that's worth exploring. So this next one is going to be a more cute than good deal, but I can't help but think about how funny this would be to have happen. And that's going to be running the Highgarden Cavalry along, pairing up with a Golden Company War Elephant. The War Elephant speed 6, so it's pretty fast, and it's got some decent like Baratheon-ish stats for defense, and it just does a ton of damage. Like it's got vicious, and your opponent doesn't get defense dice against you, and you get +1 die for each of the defender's remaining ranks at 4 attacks. So if you're going into an opponent for the first time and they're full on ranks, you're getting 7 hits, or you're getting 7 dice. You're throwing 7 dice, and you're hitting on 3s, re-rolling more likely than not, and you're just going straight to the morale check, and it's at -2. So this War Elephant should be able to do a ton of damage, and if your opponent decides to fight back and do some work to the elephant, because they'll have to, right? You can then activate your Highgarden Pikemen, get that free maneuver, charge up, use Rallying Cry from the Glory Seeker to heal back any wounds from the elephant, and then rinse and repeat. So it's kind of like, it's a more, like I said, it's really cute. It sounds fun to me to just kind of have Riders of Highgarden running around supporting an elephant. It does mean that you need to bring the Golden Company infantry unit, but to be honest with you, the Golden Company swordsmen, well, 7 points, they're pretty decent in a Baratheon list because you want to control the missive anyways for some of your cards. You automatically have Sundering, you can keep them hanging around for a while with Iron Resolve, and they're a good bunker for a commander in my opinion. So I think that it's there, a lot of your list is committed to making this package function, but I can't get it out of my head, this idea of Baratheons running around with an elephant. It just seems really fun. So when we think about commanders that could function well with the Riders of Highgarden, I feel like I'm kind of defaulting a little bit into my preferred way to play Baratheons, but I do reach for Renly Baratheon, the Charismatic Heir. His attachment version gives boldness and courage that just allows a unit to attack at +1 attack die if they're at full ranks. Otherwise, they get to count for having 1 more rank for rolling their attack dice. He brings Embolden, so friendly units within short range get +1 to their morale test rolls. But the Renly in general likes to kind of play in the middle of the table. He kind of wants to be the center of everything, and the Riders of Highgarden can make sure that any heat kind of comes off of him. If we go back to like the Golden Company swordsmen, they're not a terrible unit for him because they can do some pretty decent work in melee, and that allows some more damage to get through, and then the Riders of Highgarden to clean them up really well, so Renly can kind of get around the table and do what he wants to. It also opens up access to Brienne the Blue. She just has, for 1 point, she can go into another unit, and if Renly Baratheon's unit is attacked, her unit can perform 1 attack or charge action on the attacker. So you've got the Riders of Highgarden trying to clear Renly off. You've got the ability of Brienne the Blue to try and help clear him off as well. You have a lot of ways to protect Renly Baratheon in a list with Riders of Highgarden. Now, if we turn our attention to the cards that Renly Baratheon brings along, the first one's going to be Wealth and Charisma. This triggers when a friendly unit or friendly NCU claims a zone. You replace that zone's effect with either restoring 3 wounds across any number of friendly combat units in total, or remove all condition tokens from each friendly combat unit, and then for each token removed, you deal 1 enemy engaged with that unit 1 wound. The reason why I think this synergizes a bit with the Highgarden, or the Riders of Highgarden, is that 3 wounds is a horse. I mean, that's just, you know, the only reason why I'm even bringing it up with them. I don't think the second half of this card's really going to apply to them much, but if your opponent's kind of sniping out the coin from you, which could happen because no one really likes 2+ armor save cavalry coming back to life, or the 3+ or better saves coming back. They just don't appreciate it. And taking off the vulnerable token is really important to kind of subvert your opponent's strategies as well. So just being able to get an extra horse back into a unit is really nice with wealth and charisma. The next one is younger, bolder, and far more comely. This triggers when a friendly unit passes a morale test. You attach this card to that unit until Renly Baratheon's unit is destroyed, and then while attached and this unit is within long range of Renly's unit, the unit's melee attacks gain +1 attack die, and then it has a variable mode to draw you a card. But putting this on the Riders of Highgarden, typically they're going to be within long range of Renly. You want to get the embolden bubble on them, and additionally, rolling 11 attack dice when you charge at full ranks is really nice. So I think that this is a nice piece for them. It kind of helps mitigate a little bit the 4+ hit stat. The final card that Renly brings along is They Will Make Me King. You choose one of these modes at the start of a friendly turn. You either draw 1 tactics card, and target all friendly units within short range of Renly Baratheon's unit, and they restore 1 wound, or you can target all enemy units within short range of Renly Baratheon's unit, and they suffer 1 wound. So, again, the only real synergy for me on this one is that we could potentially get a unit of Riders of Highgarden back up to 2 ranks by this, or nothing. If you want to see the light leave your opponent's eyes, it's healing back a whole horse with just 1 wound to get that full rank on full ranks on us on the lance charge. So I think They Will Make Me King is an all right play for them. It's not amazing, but it's decent nonetheless. And there's nothing bad to say about just this card in general. Like, I know it might seem like it's like kind of cycling it for drawing a card, but I think it works pretty well here for most of the Baratheon's game plan. So at risk of building almost an entire Renly list while I'm just trying to talk about 1 unit, I think I'll pull the plug here. I think there's a lot of neat synergies and functionality that the Riders of Highgarden bring to the Renly loyalty lists. I think some Renly loyalty players might have been longingly looking at some of Stannis's toys that he had received early on, between like Melisandre and all of his R'hllor units. I think they're very flavorful and really make you feel like there's a big difference between playing Renly or playing Stannis over Renly. But now I think Renly's really starting to take shape with his loyalty units. I mean, we've got the Thornwatch that's out that kind of do something similar in terms of skirmishing on the flanks, like the Riders of Highgarden do, but we also have Highgarden pikemen, which we'll be talking about in the nearish future here. But I really do appreciate that this unit exists. I think in my opinion, I feel like they're quite powerful and can line you up for some really fun shenanigans on the table. Not so much shenanigans like they're tricky, but being able to just kind of like steamroll through a unit because your opponent's too busy chewing on a 2 or 3+ armor save unit in combat seems pretty good to me. So I'm interested to see what other people think about these, because I have a hard time imagining people just don't appreciate what these things bring to the game. I think if you're wanting to go like maximum cheese, you could even like throw 2 of these into a list along with maybe 3 units of Wardens if you just wanted to sit there and chunk stuff up and try and bulldoze through with Highgarden pikemen. But I'm interested to see how other people have been utilizing these, because I have to imagine there are plenty of Renly players out there that are really excited about these. So leave a comment in the section below the video here and let me know what you think of them. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.